The latest FNB Retirement Insights survey is out. Personal finance journalist Maya Fisher-French has been having a good look at it. Maya, hello.
Hello, John. Hi. Always interesting to chat about retirement planning, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm case in point because for various reasons, being personally useless, a significant one, I started saving for my retirement much later than I should have, and I didn't put aside a high enough percentage of my monthly income. As a result, I'm enjoying working, and I'm glad that I'm still working, and I get a lot of joy out of working, but I could not afford to stop working if I wanted to. I just don't have enough money, and this survey again shows how many people are in that position.
Yes, and I think it's not a surprising number. I think we've known that there's a massive retirement funding shortfall. But I think it was about 40% of people who are in retirement age are still working. Those are the ones, John, who I think are fortunate to still be able to work. I mean, like you were saying, you enjoy your work and you have the opportunity to continue to work. There are a lot of people who worked for companies that had a retirement age of 60 or 65 and they're in no position, they don't have skills, they don't have a network to continue to work. So I think for many of those, I would see them as actually fortunate because at least they're able to still earn an income.
And I mean, the reason is obvious, in a sense that prices have gone up and retirement income is static or dwindling. It's certainly dwindling in relation to what is needed in order to continue living roughly the same lifestyle. But the reasons for that, I mean, we know why prices are going up. And the main reason why there isn't matching income to keep up your lifestyle is because you didn't save enough, and the reasons why you didn't save enough are perhaps more complex.
Absolutely, and I think if you look, if we just have to look, John, at the current, people who are currently working and the amount of people tapping into their two-pot, for example. They find it difficult to make ends meet now, so that they draw on their retirement funding. And we do know that about 90% of people, when they change jobs, this is before the two-pot was introduced, would cash in their retirement savings. So we saw this constant drawing down on retirement savings during that period. So suddenly you get to retirement and you don't have enough. So, and I think it is a combination of not having put enough away, even for a basic retirement, let alone I think in my article I wrote about those yachts on the brochures. Like, I don't think anyone is getting yachts. I think just having enough money to pay the bills is most people's goal. And I think some people got to retirement with not even really enough money for a basic retirement. And then there are these added expenses that have come through. And, as you mentioned, we're certainly seeing things like electricity costs, medical aid. I think that was specifically picked up in the survey that people have been very surprised or unhappy about their medical aid increases, for example, way stripping their increases in their income in retirement. And many of them are also, supporting sometimes elderly parents. You're 65 and you've still got parents who are alive, and you've still got children living at home. So there's a lot of factors, I think, really that are hitting the current retirees.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to get to medical aid. So I look at what I'm paying for medical aid at the moment, and when my salary stops, whenever that is, there's absolutely no way that I'm going to be able to afford the medical aid category that I'm in at the moment. Will I even be able to afford a hospital plan with what I will have on a monthly basis in terms of my investments? And we're living longer, and as you say, our parents, not my case, but people who are in their late 50s, early 60s have parents who are living longer. They're going to live longer themselves, and living longer often comes with increased medical complications, which comes with significantly increased medical costs. And then there's the electricity and the water, food's gone up. You just kind of go, how does anybody enjoy a retirement lifestyle that approximates to the lifestyle that they had when they were at the peak of their earning powers?
Well, John, I think the big thing is the longevity factor that you've raised. So, many people, I think people sort of expect, well, not only they expect, their companies retire them at 60. Well, you're going to there's a good chance you're going to live for another 30 years after that. That is the probabilities now. And how do you fund 30 years of income from your work during your working lifetime? It's almost impossible. I mean, you have to be putting away a lot of money to be able to just be able to continue to draw enough from your investments for the next 30 years. So I think that longevity is a big issue, and it really goes back to that starting point about continuing to work for longer. And that's why I'm saying the people who are working still into retirement are the fortunate ones, because if we can now work until we're 70, for example, that impact is huge, because it means we're drawing down less. We only have to draw down for the next 20 years and not the next 30 years. And we are at the same time having that extra time for accumulation towards those investments. I think that is what I would take from all of this, is that unless you have been really good and disciplined and put money away and had good investment growth, let's stop pretending at the retirement age of 60. And I don't know how we're going to get that into the corporates, because they are making the retirement age 60. So people have to make a plan beyond corporate.
Yeah, I look back on my life, Maya, and I go, yes, I say that I started saving too late, which I did, and I didn't put enough money away, which I did. But I sometimes think to myself, if the money that I spent on doing things that gave me a great deal of joy in my 30s and my 40s and my 50s, if I'd saved that money, then when I retire in 1, 2, 3 years' time, whenever it is, I would have more money, but I don't know, it's not that at 74, 75 you can't still really enjoy yourself traveling and doing all those things, but I kind of wonder if maybe in a strange way I made the right choice to have 4 decades of wonderful travel, food and wine and things that are important to me, not suggesting they should be important to other people, but to me they are. And I won't be able to do that when I retire, not if. And I don't know, what do you want? Do you want a really comfortable retirement, or you want a lot of fun while you are still of reasonable vitality and youth?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? And I think both are possible. And one of the things, John, is actually the starting young. So if you start from your first paycheck, you actually have to put away so much less than if you're only starting in maybe when you're 40. And it's probably too late for everybody who's in their 40s listening to this. But if I could just get one thing through, my son's going to start working next year, is if you just start then. And then you can still do both. Then you can enjoy it as your pay. And I think this is the important thing, is that, you say, right, I'm going to put 15% away, or whatever that number is, away for retirement. And I just maintain that all the time. So as I get my salary increases, all the rest of it, I'm still going to make sure that I keep that percentage matching. And then, I will still get to enjoy the other parts of my life, because that compounding is taking effect. But if you've saved nothing, by the time you're reaching 40, you're going to have to putting away 35% of your salary. That starts to get much harder. And that's when you are going to have to start making decisions about the holiday and buying the really nice bottle of wine. But I think with planning, you can do both. And I think, John and I, just to go down to like the nitty-gritty budgeting stuff, I often work with people on their budgets, and it's amazing how much unconscious spending there is as well, how much wastage we actually do every month. So I think if we are a little bit more, we think a little bit more about it. And I mean, I suppose one of the beauties of not having to think about your money is just the relief of it. So that's part of it. But, if we are able to say, well, I'm going to first save, and then what's left I'll enjoy, I think we can probably find a balance somehow.
Thank you very much, finance journalist Maya Fisher-French.